and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate having a live audience to talk to. I just want to start out by mentioning that I think everybody is aware that we're in trouble. Am I right?
Yes.
Our country is in trouble with its health, and our health costs are soaring. Every day they go higher. We all seem to be set out to get some chronic disease because now they can keep us alive for a long time. And that means that we have a long time that we can, contract disease and then not die from it like we might have in the old days. And we have much more of it than we've ever had before. And by chronic disease, I mean the kinds of things like diabetes and heart disease and cancer, arthritis that you get at a certain stage in your life, and it becomes chronic. So healthcare really at that point is disease management. It's really not health care. And what I stand for is health care. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to start with the topic of sugar, because sugar has been pointed out to be the most toxic substance that we deal with on a pretty daily basis that leads to these illnesses. And I'll show you the flow chart on how that works. But I want to ask you all if you remember the Little House on the Prairie series. Do you remember that, either in the film or in the books that you might have read to your children? I know I read them all to mine. And do you remember that Pa used to hitch up his buckboard wagon and go to town twice a year, 40 miles, stayed the night, spent the next day coming home? And both times that he went in the year, he brought home 25 pounds of sugar for the family of 4, which lasted for 6 months. Okay? So we figured that out, that's 50 pounds, okay? There's 4 people, so that's a pound a week divided by 4 is a quarter of a pound. Now, a quarter of a pound of sugar fits in this. This is a half a cup, and that would be a quarter of a pound of sugar. So each one of them, which I think kind of seems like a lot of sugar, so each one of them consumed that much during the week, okay? Today, on the other hand, we consume 3/4 of a pound a day. That's the average for this country. And just to show you what that looks like, this is how much we get into our bloodstream on a daily basis, on average. Now, there are probably a lot of us that don't eat that, don't eat any or eat very little of it. So imagine the children, especially, that are eating twice that much. Okay, the havoc that wreaks on your bloodstream is what leads to chronic illness. Because when you put sugar in your body, and by sugar I mean all of its forms. So anything, my definition is anything that breaks down into glucose and is in your bloodstream within 15 minutes counts as sugar. And that goes for all of our processed foods because they have been stripped of everything. And then when we take them in with all their oily and sweet and salty, wonderful tastes, they get turned into sugar very, very quickly. So your body is kind of stuck with this amazing amount of stuff to do something with. And as you know, before they discovered insulin for diabetics, people would die from it quite quickly when their sugar went too high because the body just can't cope with it if you don't have insulin. So when sugar goes in and your glucose goes up, insulin comes out to take care of it. And insulin's job is to stuff all those sugar molecules that you can't instantly use for your energy, all these extras, into fat cells. So it's how sugar makes us fat, even though it's not fat. And fat, by the way, doesn't make us fat, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So then the chain into chronic illness is from, and I'm going to show you my little chart here, a little homemade thing, that from sugar, it goes into the insulin release that we just talked about. Now, what happens with that is that insulin is a highly inflammatory hormone. Okay, it's only supposed to be in the blood for a certain amount of time to get rid of the sugar that's extra, and then kind of pancreas relaxes, everybody goes back to sleep for the afternoon, and until you need it again. But with this much sugar in our food on a daily basis, or double that much, this process is going on constantly. Okay, so what happens is inflammation becomes the next stage. And if any of you are interested in health and you've been following information about disease, you've probably heard that inflammation is the basis that has to happen first before any chronic illness starts. So you don't just not have cancer one day and have cancer the next. You don't just not have diabetes one day you have, and then have it the next. What happens is they have found that the process of inflammation, now we know how to look for it. So we have some wonderful new tests that can go in and look at those markers and see long before you get a disease with a name that you are inflamed. Okay, now I put my little stars all over because inflammation is a red hot situation in your body. If you've ever cut yourself and you know how it just feels horrible for a few days until the healing starts, well, that's because it's so inflamed and it's red. So just think about hurting yourself on the outside. It's exactly how you look on the inside. Everything is red and burning. Okay, so from inflammation then, which is the basis of starting all chronic diseases. We get cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, you name anything that's chronic, and it starts with inflammation, okay? Now, how much sugar are we getting and where's it from is the next part. And I'm just going to show some things rather quickly, but I want you just to get a visual on this because to me it's so helpful in making changes for the future. And those of you that have children or know people that have children or might have children someday or whatever, it's really wonderful to have this information in your head before you know, you have to start yanking it. You know, I counsel a lot of moms who have 4-year-olds. Yanking their sugar is a lot harder than if they never had any, you know, in these forms. So we start with something that we think of as really healthy, as, you know, Trader Joe's organic orange juice. And in that little innocent orange juice, that one is 13 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, it's a lot of sugar. And you don't think of orange juice as being sugar, but it is. We don't need orange juice. It goes into sugar within 15 minutes inside your body. I'm going to look at these things that we consider healthy first, just to show you the shock value of the things that actually aren't healthy, and these aren't. Gatorade, something people really rely on for their kids after soccer, for when they work out or whatever, and it's supposed to be just electrolyte balancing, but actually that little thing has 8.5, you know, 8.5 teaspoons of sugar in it, so that's actually a lot of sugar. Imagine making a drink for yourself where you put 8 or 9 teaspoons of sugar in it. I mean, it's pretty absurd, but this is just normal. And then I moved to, it might be my latest favorite thing, it's called vitamin water. And, you know, it just says 100% of your daily vitamins for blah, 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 blah. But when you look on the back and examine it closely, it's water, and then that much sugar, and then 0.5 of 1%. Of some little vitamins they throw in. You could get that much. You could get that much if you scraped your fingernail across an orange and sniffed it. I mean, that's how much vitamin content is in it. And they're kind of expensive for just water. So if you just put water in a jar, which is, by the way, the drink of choice, if you put water in there and added, I don't know, a teaspoon of sugar instead of 8.5, and then just took a little bit of sea salt for your electrolytes, just a little pinch, and put it in there, shook it up, you'd have a wonderful electrolyte balancing drink for zero money. So, you know, this is just now to the stuff that we already knew was toxic. Okay, this is, you probably wonder where I got this. It's an antique shop. It's a very old bottle of Coke, and this is the serving size that we used to get. Remember those days when I was a kid? They were little tiny things. 6.5 teaspoons in that. Okay, that's way more than you need, but at least it's not as much as in Rockstar. Okay, Rockstar is the drink of choice for a lot of teenagers. It's just like Coke, but it has the advertisement of having caffeine and guarana and ginseng and B vitamins, so it really sounds like a health drink. But this lovely little health drink gives those kids that go surfing before high school this much sugar. Wow. Okay? Now what happens after the insulin takes care of that and gets it out of your bloodstream and your fat cells are now infused with that is you get a blood sugar drop when you have this much sugar, right? And so that same kid, after he finishes surfing, has to have another one on the way to school so he can make through his first few classes. And then he's wondering why at 11 o'clock he can't keep his head up, and he thinks it's because chemistry is boring. It's not the teacher, it's the sugar, okay? So that's our drinks. I just wanted to show you that there's so much evidence that the only thing worth drinking is water. And if you need a little sea salt in it for your electrolytes, go for it, it's cheap. Okay, I'm going to move back to some other products that are in themselves rather shocking. People buy cereal for themselves or their children. This one came free in the LA Times, and I thought it was perfect for my demonstration. I don't have to have a big box. And in this little box of cereal, before you put the sugar on it, it already has this much in it. And that's 1 ounce.
Wow.
And that's not what people eat. People might eat 3 or 4 of these in a bowl. Okay, so there's your sugar before you add the sugar on that one. Now I just wanted to show you a couple of, what should we call these, concoctions. We have here a nice little wonderful innocent potato, okay. Now when it goes to the industry, it gets turned into these. And this version of the potato has 6½ teaspoons of sugar in it. It's just that much. It's not much, but 6½ teaspoons of sugar, and people don't think of this as a sugar snack. Oh, I like the salty things, not the sugar. Well, do you know how much trouble the industry goes to put together fat, sugar, and salt to make it irresistible and addictive? A lot. They pay those guys called food scientists big bucks to come up with something that you can become so addicted to you can't live without it. Another example I have is this nice little ear of organic corn. And if you mess with it enough, you can get this, which has 7 teaspoons of sugar in it. Okay? So, now this one I want to show you because it's an example of things in boxes. Actually, all of this stuff really is an example of things in boxes. But this is a good way to demonstrate the amount of flour versus chemicals. Okay, so the first ingredient in this would be some denatured flour, either from corn or soy or wheat or whatever. And they've had all the good stuff taken out of it so that it won't rot, and it'll have a shelf life of 3 years.
Wow.
And the demonstration I want to show you is that for every 6 ounces of that denatured, already not good for you flour, there's the 6 ounces, there's 4 ounces of chemicals.
Oh.
Okay, so it's not even mostly denatured flour.
Wow.
It's over half flour, but it's almost half pure chemicals. And that's why the ingredient list is so long, because those are all the chemicals. It starts with, you know, flour. They don't say denatured flour, but we know that's what it is. And it's usually GMO, it's genetically modified. So you're already starting with something that's not really a very trustworthy food. But maybe the biggest desecration to food as we know it, to me, is what they invented in the 80s called Lunchables. You know that little snack? I used to know a mom who gave those to her kids, and that was back in the 80s, and I was horrified, but now I'm even more horrified. This little innocent looking thing has kind of had a cover put on it. It's a new look, so that you really can't see what's in there, because if you get close to it and look at it, you go, that really doesn't look like food. Well, it's not. Okay, now Oscar Mayer went through a big dip in the 80s. They couldn't get rid of their bologna because the Framingham studies started coming out about heart disease and cholesterol. And so they decided they had to do something about this. So they called together their 11 smartest guys in the area, they were all men, and said, what are we going to do about getting our bologna back on the market? So they came up and invented the Lunchables. So it was a way to get rid of some bologna and some crackers. And then kind of more recently, in the 90s, they decided they weren't selling quite enough, even though they're making billions off of it. They said, what's the missing factor? It's dessert. So now you can get them with Chips Ahoy cookies, or a little piece of a brownie, or a little pudding, or some other product that that company makes. So this is the desecration for children. And kids really do take this to school. Now I admit, you can open your refrigerator and you can take out 3 of these for your 3 little packages that you're making for your little kids in 3 seconds. But it only takes 2 minutes to make a good old organic peanut butter sandwich on sprouted bread, which will last them a lot longer as far as energy goes. And this little guy at $1.79, I can make, and this is the on sale price, by the way, I can make the organic peanut butter sandwich on sprouted grain bread, have a little organic apple, slices of celery, and carrots for 50 cents. Okay, so it's not like getting them on sale is a really good deal. And I just wanted to show you that I blew up the, I should say enlarged, I didn't blow up anything, I promise. I enlarged the back so you can see just the list of ingredients for those. It's cheese, meat, and cookie. And that's how many words it takes to describe that non-food. I like to call this, this is the food industry food, but it's actually an oxymoron because there is no food here. Now it is an industry, but it's not food. So we could call it the toxic concoction industry, or we could call it, you know, various names that aren't nice, but it's really not food, so I want you to get that real clear. And then one of the things that I enjoy showing people is my 2-year-old hamburger. I've had this little guy in a bag. I had one that was older, was 3 years old, but it crumbled. It just, I mean, literally I took it out of this little thing one day and the bun just kind of crumbled in my hand because it had gotten so desiccated. Now here is this little guy who looks exactly the same as the day I brought him home from the hospital. Okay, looks the same. But in those years, no self-respecting insect or bug or yeast or mold would grow on it. Nothing will go near this. You can leave it outside, and I don't think an animal would touch it unless, I don't know, maybe a possum would eat anything. But most other things won't go near it. And yet, this is really what's called food-grade plastic. This piece of cheese, you can feel it. It's plastic. And the meat's not far behind. But it's not food to be putting in ourselves or our children. The next little item I'm going to show you is vegetable oil. This is called vegetable oil, and on the back it says, you know, 100% soybean oil. So this is made from this innocent little wonderful organic edamame. Okay, so that's your soybean, and here's what comes out as the oil. Now, all vegetable oils, be they corn or safflower or soy or canola, they're all put through such an amazing process to get them into this purified look. It's toxic before you cook with it. It's already been through so much boiling and cleansing and bleaching that it's not worth putting in your body. And it's in the class of foods called the omega-6s, which are highly inflammatory. Now, all restaurant food and all fast food and all packaged food uses only this kind of oil. Okay? All the vegetable oils are what are used in preparing our food. Now, the fruit oils are the healthy ones. And the fruit oils I'll talk about over there, you know, would be olive oil, which is a fruit, avocados, which is a fruit, the grapeseed oil, coconut oil, those are all fruit oils, and those are safe, and they have, some of them have a very high flash point, so you can actually cook at a very high temperature if you need to, but not this stuff. And this, all salad dressings, by the way, are based on this. So if you take any salad dressing out of a bottle, ever, this is what you're getting. So when you go to a restaurant, ask for your olive oil on the side. They all have it. And squeeze a lemon, put some oil. You'll be happy and healthier for it. Okay, now I'm going to move. Oh, no, I have one more. My favorite. I saved it till the last. My favorite is Milk Duds. And the reason it's my favorite is because the amount of sugar in that package is almost as tall as me. Okay? Now, on the back it says, I don't know, 3.5 servings. Yeah, right. You know, what teenager in the movie shares them with 3.5 friends? You know? I've seen kids eat the whole bag, I mean the whole box without any trouble at all. Yeah. And that's, picture what your poor little pancreas is doing when it sees this load coming in minute after minute during the movie. It's like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff? You know, it's just, it's an amazing thing that we're doing to ourselves. So I like to save him till the end. Okay, moving over to the food, I just want to point out some food groups and how they work to make you healthy, okay? First of all, a little short lesson on metabolism, and it's going to be kid speak, so that I don't want to get too technical and have you all close your eyes and go away. Metabolism is what happens inside of our bodies when we put food in there. Okay. Now you know that there's no pieces of chicken floating around your bloodstream. Okay. There's no pieces of avocado floating around in your bloodstream. It has to be put through this rigorous process of making it into a liquid in order to enter the bloodstream and nourish you and give you energy. Okay, to have that happen, you have to have what is called cofactors. You have to have certain, if you've ever seen the Krebs cycle, if you remember high school biology, the Krebs cycle, every little reaction along the Krebs cycle pulls a nutrient out. It needs niacin to do this bit. It needs B6 to do this bit. It needs B12 to do this bit. It needs the mineral magnesium to do this. Okay, so that's the Krebs cycle. And so our bodies, a little bit like a car, take in the fuel, we burn the fuel, and we have some exhaust, Okay, now the exhaust in a car comes out the tailpipe, and the exhaust for us, there's no place to go but inside. And this is when that inflammation thing starts. The oxidative stress and the free radical damage and all that stuff leads to this inflammation because we don't sometimes have enough of those cofactors. Now, where do they come from? Ta-da! The cofactors come from our food, okay? So it's a bank account too. We have withdrawals and we have deposits. So if you're working around on this side of the table, you're constantly making withdrawals. So that metabolism has to borrow from some other tissue. Oh my God, there's not any B6 in here. I need to steal some of that from that nice healthy tissue that you were born with. Okay, you can only do that for so many years. You can't be, just like with your bank account, in withdrawal mode all the time. You have to make some deposits. Okay, I really like to be in excess on deposits, both in my bank account and in my body. So if you stick with this side of the table and eat from these food groups, you're not going to be doing withdrawal too often. Okay, and withdrawal is what you go through when you stop your addiction to sugar. And people don't think they're addicted. But think about your favorite thing. Maybe you've given it up. Maybe you used to drink 2 Cokes a day, or some people drink 4, whatever. And you had to go through giving it up because of some health issue. And you know how hard that is. It's no harder than giving up heroin or alcohol. And I read that. It's not, I didn't make that up. It sets off, the addiction to sugar sets off the same neurohormones and the same chemicals that make us feel good as heroin does. Okay, the very same ones. And I read that in Science Magazine last year. I went, okay, that's why it's so hard for people, because, you know, you have to kind of wean it off or, you know, chew a lot of something to make that feeling go away. Okay, so I'm going to rapidly run through I don't think we need too much explanation of what these are, and you all know how good for you they are because that's all we hear. We know that every study being done nowadays says, what's the cure? Oh, more fruits and vegetables. How do you not get that disease? More fruits and vegetables. How do you make that disease go away? More fruits and vegetables. It's the answer to everything, okay? And most people can't live on just fruits and vegetables. You get a little hungry. Vegans have a hard time not having candy. Vegans are the worst candy eaters in the world because they are so addicted to needing protein that they take it from sugar. So that's just a little inside. When I work with vegans, I try to get them over that a little bit so that they stop eating the sugar. They think, gee, as long as it has no animal product in it, it must be healthy. Well, pure cane sugar has no animal products in it, and a 1.5 cups a day is not a good way to go. I think I want to talk about the healthy fats and oils first because they're the category that have been so maligned that people are afraid of fats, and they buy low-fat food, and they eat low-fat food. And actually, when you buy something that says low-fat on it, what thing do you think is going up?
Sugar.
Carbohydrate, yeah, sugar. Okay, so the more fat they take out, the more carbohydrate you're getting. It's the opposite way you want to go. If you're buying anything that has fat in it, go for the full fat. Enjoy the taste, just don't eat so much. Okay, fat-free cheese, are you serious? What is cheese? It's fat. So if you take the fat out of it, you've got another list of weird chemicals that you don't need, okay? So just eat less of it, but enjoy the real thing. That's what I feel. Walnuts have the most incredible fats in them of all the nuts. So if you like eating nuts, which everybody I hope does, the more you can stick to walnuts and almonds, those are the highest in the nutrients, not just for our brain, but for our fatty acid content in all of our cells. And choose nuts, not these things that have been greased in cottonseed oil. You know, they grease them up. I mean, it's like, can't you just put a nut in a bag? You know, how hard is that? Trader Joe's can do it. And you can put these in your car and in your purse and have them everywhere. You don't need cottonseed oil, which is not a good thing. So we have avocados are in this fat family, and olive oil, and your organic nut butters. I do like to recommend organic. They're not that much more expensive actually if you go to the right stores, because there's a toxicity that can hang around nut factories. So if you can get an organic kind, you're a little bit better ahead. And they're a very good protein. So kids with a peanut butter sandwich with a slice of mozzarella cheese on it, they're so far ahead of a Lunchable. You know, they're doing deposits, not withdrawals when you eat that way. Eggs, another terribly maligned best food on earth. I mean, think of it. It makes chickens.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, how bad can it be? You know? And it's a wonderful thing. And we now know the cholesterol myth is actually that. It's a myth, which I won't go into, but been reading that, so I think you probably know that. So that covers, I think, the fat family. Then I have all kinds of things that do come in packages, but these are just packaged in factories. They're not industrialized. So we have whole grain brown rice with a strawberry, and we have the organic quinoa, which is a seed. It's not really a grain, so it works in grain-free diets. All different kinds of lentils. I love lentils in every shape and form, especially this one that I make Indian food with, because it's just so great. And then, of course, the spices. And that we know that the East Indian spices are the ones that have absolutely the most nutrition in them, because guess what they are? They are anti-inflammatories. So people with arthritis pain can put turmeric in a skillet with a bunch of olive oil and put that on their food, and in a week their pain will diminish quite a bit, because turmeric is so potent an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. So I use all these Indian kind of spices. We have legumes over here. Any kind of bean is a good thing, has tons of fiber, has a lot of carbohydrate. But guess what? When you have a lot of fiber with the food, what happens? Go ahead, answer.
It passes through.
It goes right through slowly. It doesn't cause this huge jump in your blood sugar. It's a mellow, slow, everybody's happy, even your pancreas. Like, I can handle that, okay? And it'll give you sustenance for a pretty long time. Some of the animal products that I enjoy, especially when in a hurry, are a wild-caught sockeye salmon and this pole-caught tuna, which means there's nothing special about a pole or a fishing line that makes the tuna better. It's just that it has to be a small fish. So if it's pole caught, it's a little fish, and little fish don't have the levels of mercury and lead in them that the bigger fish do. So stay away from big fish, eat little fish. We also have a huge need for garlic in our bodies because it does so many incredible things. And other things that are in packages are like organic tomatoes, and all kinds of organic beans can be found in cans now. So if you're in a hurry, you can still make an inexpensive, very healthy meal, kind of on the run. It doesn't have to take hours to cook. I mentioned our whole grain foods, and sprouted grains, bread, sorry. And then I want to get to my free range animals. First I have my grass-fed beef, and then I have my free-range chicken, and I have my New Zealand lamb that's grown on grass. And thank goodness I have a 9-month-old granddaughter, because she loaned me these today. So I do enjoy animal products myself occasionally, and I only buy them if they have had a life. I don't want to take a life or enjoy eating a life that hasn't had a life. And so that's kind of an ethical point of view. But health-wise, it's a different animal. Something that's been raised outside, running around, eating grass, makes a different kind of fat in its tissue than if it's in a box, if it's in a pen, if it's one of those kind of, the way 99.9% of our meat is. That fat is an omega-6 fat, which is the inflammatory kind. But these little guys that are running around eating grass, they make omega-3 oils just like fish do.
Wow.
So that's a really different kind of animal you're eating. It's well worth eating less of it, make it a treat, and just eat the real thing. And you can find butcher shops that sell that. The plethora of nutrients, and we're getting close, we're getting close to the end of our time here, but the amount of nutrients that are in fruits and vegetables are so interesting to me, because I realize that they're like a puzzle. And this is from reading different articles about what happens. I'll tell you a short story. There's a Chinese scientist that has been working on discovering the apple for all of his career. He spent 25 years discovering what's in an apple. And we know that in an apple, the phytonutrients in an apple they're thinking about 10,000. Okay, 10,000 different plant. Now, that took a long time, I'm sure, to evolve that. But this is true for all of these things, 8,000, 6,000, 5,000, 12,000, whatever. And we think that there are about 100,000 altogether in our plant world, okay? Now, they have only discovered and named 800 of them. I've got 800 here on this page. And so that means there's another 9,000 out there that hasn't got a name yet. But guess what? They work together, and what's the magic word? Synergistically. They work together synergistically to do amazing things to help out your deposit side of your bank account. Okay, now picture a puzzle. Picture all these things being puzzle pieces. Do you know how some all puzzle pieces have a bump? And then they also have an indentation, right? And that's how they lock together. Well, that's what fruits and vegetables have. You know, this guy is missing some things that the eggplant picks up, because one's the bump and one's got the indentation. So if you think about for the whole plant world that we enjoy, the secret would be as many as you can eat a day. Not necessarily quantity, but the number. Because every time you put another puzzle piece in, you increase the synergistic capacity. It's not plain addition. It's not 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. And the Chinese study that I was going to tell you about is that he found the certain antioxidant capacities of apples, and the various apples had different sets. And one day he'd been realizing, he was reading about cranberries a lot, because you know cranberries took a big bump in notice about 5 years ago, and pretty soon there's cranberry juice and cranberry this and whatever, because that group got a hold of it. Okay, and he then started doing tests of antioxidant capacity by mixing apples with cranberries, and they went from this much antioxidant capacity plus this one to 7 times the amount of either alone. And the same is true of chicken and broccoli, which is interesting. There's certain things in broccoli and certain things in chicken that fit together this magic way that makes the capacity for health 7 times more than if you ate chicken for breakfast and broccoli for lunch. It's just, this is how the plant world works, okay? So I think I've covered the basis of what I wanted to do, and I wanted to tell you that this is the basically official end of part 1 of this video, and there will be scrolling across it at the end my website, which is, you don't need to remember, but it's www.nutritionletter.net. It's very easy. And also my email address will be on there. So if you would like to be part of my email letter, or you have questions, or you'd like to just read some of the articles that I've written on my website, please feel free to do that, and you'll have that information available. Okay. Thank you.